Hey everybody, it's Michael from Wahoo Comics here with another haul and speculation video. And as usual, I've got a bunch of books I'm looking forward to showing you, starting off with this one, Avengers number 69, which contains the first appearance of one of my favorite villains, the Grandmaster. As you might know, the Grandmaster is one of the elders of the universe. And the elders are known to each have a certain obsession. So you have the collector, who's obsessed with collecting, like many of us who are in this hobby. You have the gardener, who's obsessed with gardening, the runner, who's obsessed with running, and so forth. And then you have the Grandmaster, who's obsessed with games. Now, I don't know how many of you have seen the recent hit Netflix series Squid Games, but that's basically what the Grandmaster does. He sets up all these games that usually has some kind of simple rules, but they're often for the fate of the universe or the cosmos, and he gets heroes and villains to compete in them for his own entertainment. And I just really find those stories enjoyable because I'm a huge fan of games. Growing up, I would always make a game out of everything. I remember so many times when me and my brother would just find a couple of random items and come up with some game to play with it. And one story that stuck into mind as I was preparing this video, remember this one time where I can't even remember who did it first, but we had a wiffle ball and a wiffle ball bat. And one of us threw up the ball and hit it with the bat like twice. And then the other one saw it and said, oh, I can keep it in the air more than that. And so then, did it 3 times. And then the other one said, well, I can do more than that. And so we kept going back and forth, each breaking each other's records. We probably did this for like a couple of hours before we decided to take a break. I can't remember who was at the lead at the end of that first day, but the other one was committed to eventually breaking that record. And so the next day, the game started over and over again to break this record. And eventually, we got to where we were able to keep the ball in the air for hundreds of hits. And so we'd play and you'd break the record, and then you wouldn't have to worry about playing again for weeks because the other person was going to have to take that long before they finally broke that new crazy record. And man, we kept that game up for, I don't know, certainly months, and it might have stretched into years. And I can't remember who came out on top before. I probably had to go off to college. We'll say it's me. But I remember having so much fun with that game and just games in general. And so I've always loved them. And for that reason, the Grandmaster has always been a favorite of mine. And so I'm really happy to have this book. Of course, his character you probably know is in Thor Ragnarok. So this doesn't really have any speculative value. But he could show up again in the movie. But regardless, it's a Silver Age book. And it's in really nice condition. Pretty high grade. I'm going to send this off to CGC and see what it comes back with, but I'm really hopeful that it'll have a really good grade. And so it's just a book that should grow over time, but that I'm just personally excited to have in my collection. And then from that seller, I also got Avengers number 80, which contains the first appearance of the Red Wolf. And I don't necessarily know if this character will ever make it to the MCU, but Disney is trying to have more diverse characters, and so of course this is a Native American character, so who knows, he could show up, and if he does, this book would climb in value a lot. But regardless, again, it's a Silver Age book, so just an awesome one to have in a collection. And these are the earliest Avengers books that I now personally own, so I'm excited to have them. Another Silver Age book that I got from this seller that I'm really excited about is this one, Fantastic Four 57, which contains this awesome Doctor Doom cover. As I've mentioned before, Doctor Doom is my very favorite villain of all time. And so I'm super happy to have this iconic cover. And the last book I got from this seller was this one, Conan the Barbarian, number 14. And this one I did pick up as an investment. I didn't grow up reading a lot of Conan, and so I'm just starting to learn a lot about his lore. But this contains the first appearance of Elric, and as well as the first cameo of Kulan Gath. Not sure if I'm saying that right. But as you might know, as I've shared before, there's a Red Sonja movie coming on Netflix next year. And I think these Conan characters are going to start getting more screen time in the coming years. And so a lot of their important issues, I think, are good ones to be investing in. And this is one of those. And so I am really happy, again, to have it in my collection. But definitely more of an investment than these other ones where I grew up loving these characters. But regardless, still happy to have it. Well, in addition to these cool books, I also got a lot of Spider-Man keys lately. And so I am going to show those off, beginning with another sweet Silver Age one, Amazing Spider-Man number 51, which contains the first cover appearance of Wilson Fisk, another one of my favorite villains of all time. I've especially loved him since the Daredevil Netflix series. And this is definitely a book that's in pretty rough shape, but I'm still happy to have my own copy. And the center of the cover is pretty good. It's really rough around the edges, but the actual art still looks pretty good. And so I'm happy about that. And this is a book that's been climbing in value because there are a lot of rumors that the Kingpin is going to make his way back into the MCU, maybe in the Hawkeye series or the Spider-Man movie, but sometime soon. And I'm super excited about that. Again, I love that character. And so even though it's low grade, I'm happy to have it because I think even the low grade books are going to go up quite a bit in value in the coming months. From that same seller, I also got Amazing Spider-Man 337, which contains this awesome Sinister Six cover. And so this book has been climbing in value because the Sinister Six, some version of them, are going to be in the upcoming Spider-Man movie. I also got Amazing Spider-Man 406, which contains the first appearance of Lady Octopus, who's already in the Into the Spider-Verse movie, which I loved. And so I'm happy to have her first appearance. And also Amazing Spider-Man 471, also known as number 30 of Volume 2, which contains the first appearance of Morlun. And Morlun is one of my favorite villains of modern day comics. He's basically this character who goes around the multiverse eating different versions of Spider-Man. And so I am a sucker for multiverse stories. I'm so excited that Marvel is going to start exploring that more in the MCU. I loved Into the Spider-Verse and just seeing like different ideas of what Spider-Man, for instance, could look like. And so I'm super happy to get the first appearance of this character, and certainly believe that if they continue to explore the multiverse, especially maybe in an Into the Spider-Verse movie, we could see Morlun pop up in this book climb in value quite a bit. All right, well, I've also got some Spider-Man keys from the seller I mentioned last week, who I bought a bunch of books off of, and so I'm just kind of spreading his books out over time. First of all, Amazing Spider-Man 253, which contains the first appearance of the Rose, which is actually the Kingpin's son, who had at least one previous name. I think, too, he was the Schemer, then I think something else, then he becomes the Rose. And who knows? I don't think this character is going to show up anytime soon necessarily, but if the Kingpin Wilson Fisk shows up, then certainly there's room for his son to show up at some point. And if he goes under the name of the Rose, then of course this book's going to climb in value a lot. But regardless, I got this book at a good deal, and all Spider-Man books, are just safe things that will steadily climb in value over time. I'm also one of my long-term goals, is to complete the full run of Amazing Spider-Man. I've got a long way to go, but each book is a step closer there. And another book that I got from him was Amazing Spider-Man 265, which contains the first appearance of Silver Sable. And I think this book is one that is a good one to be speculating on, because I do think eventually Silver Sable will come either to the Sonyverse or to the MCU. Which may merge at some point, but I think she's a good character to be thinking about. A female character, so they're looking for different female characters to introduce. And this is a story this has a story of personal redemption. I like to share these. This one isn't as big as some of the other stories I shared, but earlier this year, I had my eyes on picking up a copy of this, and there's a seller that I had bought several books from, and he had 5 copies of this. And so I thought, I've got plenty of time to jump on them. I'm going to prioritize getting some of these other issues from him first. I was getting a little bit from him each week. And then all of a sudden, one day, some dude bought all 5 copies and foiled all my plans. I've been keeping my eye out and expecting, okay, when he sold a copy or two, then I'll make sure I buy one of his copies to make sure I have it. And we sold all 5. It's been hard to find this book in good condition at a good price. And finally I did. And so I am really stoked to have this book, as well as this one, Amazing Spider-Man 299, which contains arguably the first appearance of Venom. This is another book where there's a controversy, or Venom's another character where there's a controversy over what's his true first appearance. For years, CGC designated this as the first appearance, but eventually I think they've moved it now, and it's at least certainly considered by the market, Amazing Spider-Man 300 to be his first appearance. And really, that's pretty much just because of the cover of Amazing Spider-Man 300 is so iconic, and so people have kind of shifted because of that cover to making that the main book to have. This is still a very valuable book, just not as big as 300. So I have 298, which is the first cameo of Venom, 299, which I guess is the second cameo, but on my bucket list, hopefully one day I will have a copy of number 300. I don't have it yet, but hopefully one day. But really happy to have this one and some other Spider-Man books I got from this seller. Not Amazing Spider-Man title, but Spectacular Spider-Man number 98, which has the first appearance of The Spot. And there's rumors that he will be the villain of the second Into the Spider-Verse movie, which, like I said, I love that movie. And I love this character. He's a really fun character, so I'd love to see him in it. And so this is a good book to be specking on. A much cheaper book you can find is the next one, Spectacular Spider-Man number 99, which contains the Spot's first cover appearance. And it's a really neat cover. So if you don't have that, it's one you can find probably pretty easily in back issue bins for just a couple of bucks. And so I recommend getting that just for the cover alone. Moving on to Web of Spider-Man title, I also got from the seller Web of Spider-Man 31 and Web of Spider-Man 32, which are part of the Kraven's Hunt storyline. If you saw my video a few weeks ago, I got the Amazing Spider-Man issues of this storyline, and so I'm glad to add the Web of Spider-Man issues from that storyline to my collection. I think I still have the Spectacular Spider-Man issues from my childhood that are part of this storyline. I've got to double check that, but regardless, this is this awesome Mike Zeck cover, and so again, I'm happy to have these books, and that brings me now to my sleepers of the week. And it's actually 2 this week because they're pretty related. Going back to Conan and going back to the second seller, I also picked up Conan 241, which contains this awesome McFarlane cover. If you've been watching my videos, I've been preaching for a while. Pick up old McFarlane covers whenever you can, especially more obscure ones like this, because I really think they are set to rise in value. They already have been. You can probably find this in a back issue bin, but it's something that has climbed quite a bit in value. McFarlane is great to invest in, and if you've run out of McFarlane things to invest in, then the next best thing is Jim Lee. And so Conan 242 contains a cover by Jim Lee, which is also a book that is now climbing in value simply because it's an old cover that is drawn by an artist that's just iconic. So that brings me to an end of the books I'm going to show to you. And now for my question of the week. Like I mentioned, I love games, especially childhood games. I'm wondering, what is your favorite childhood game? Something with really simple rules. I think my favorite is probably Rock, Paper, Scissors, a game a lot of people just think is full of luck. And surely there's a luck component, but there's a lot of strategy and trying to think, well, what is the other guy thinking? And I really love it. I play with my family all the time, and we're trying to next level each other, and it's just a lot of fun. But something I can even play with my little kids. They get the rules. And so that's my favorite childhood game. What is your favorite childhood game? Let me know in the comments, or let me know anything else in the comments you think about any of these books or any books that you've been picking up. As always, of course, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, that I'd appreciate if you consider doing so. We're getting closer and closer to 100 subs. I'm really looking forward to hitting that mark, hopefully pretty soon. And of course, liking the video would also be a big help. Well, hopefully you enjoyed watching the video. I certainly enjoyed making it, and I look forward to seeing you guys the next time.